The Democratic Party, I've been a Democrat for years before my transition, before my awakening into the Republican Party. It's all lies. They're lying to themselves. They don't even know who they are.
The Democrat Party, they're devilish, they're crazy, they're sick people, and they need help. And all I can do is pray for them. That's it. I don't spread hate, I spread love.
They're so hateful. They're just so blinded by their hate, and they're so upsetting to me.
I mean, come on. People are realizing, because when you go to these Democratic cities, they're trash, right? And then what do people do? They move to red cities and try to make them trash. Sooner or later, people are going to realize what's going on.
He reached out to my community so much, and because of fake media, they try to alienate him like he's this racist, he's this, he's this, that, when that city is dominated by blacks, the legislation and everything. So now it's just like, how you gonna blame my president? He's the president of the United States, and that man reached out more than any other. He damn sure outshined Barack. Barack ain't give a damn about my community.
Just feel like the media is out to get this guy, and so he's told us the truth. We've seen what his plans are for the future, and so I'm 100% behind Donald Trump.
I would tell the Democratic Party, start with God, all right? Start with God first. Get into your word, find yourself, love yourself, and then you'll be able to reach out to all of humanity. Because at this point, you're nothing except being divisive, being negative, and you're literally doing nothing but bringing more harm to our country.
President Donald Trump made promises, and he kept those promises.
There he is. Welcome to Bill Mason's show. It's a battle against good and evil. How you doing, Bill?
I am hopefully on the good side. I'm trying to pick the right side, but it seems like, that clip, I mean, it spoke volumes about, like, that day. Like, a lot of that stuff is from the Trump MAGA, and there were tons of black people, Hispanic people, Asian people. I mean, it really was this crazy mix where everybody was just united and talking about this guy that we're all rallying behind made America something to be proud of, for something that, they all wanted to continue. And it wasn't about racism. It wasn't about anything. I mean, I know the media tried to spin it later, on all that stuff. But man, that just brings me back to that event. It was just a love fest, man. It was really great until nighttime.
Right. Until the purge started happening, right?
Yeah. Until nighttime. And everything just went to crap. It was terrible. But
oh, wow. So anyway, we've been talking about the battle against good and evil.
Yeah.
Of course, the Republicans are good and the Democrats are evil. Just to get that straight.
I'm hoping there are a couple of Republicans that I am really questioning what side they sit on. This is really bringing the separating the curds from the whey, so to speak, where as I watch this unfold, as I watch the corruption and there's certain people that are okay with it. And, we have our regular cast of characters that are just patriots. We still have Jim Jordan, who's always going to come out and he's always going to say, even the last thing he said, this is not about, Donald Trump winning the election. This is about defending the integrity of an election. This is not about Biden or Trump anymore. This is about, are these Secretary of States going to certify votes in a state that is clearly overwhelmed with fraudulent ballots?
They certified.
And they're trying to certify this stuff. And it's like, my mind is blown, because this is something that I don't think anyone could foresee the Democrats being okay with, because Democrats used to be Americans. Democrats used to be like, hey, wait a minute, everything has to be fair. We have to be equal on the playing field, and everything has, all of a sudden it's just, they're fine with the corruption. They're fine with the fraudulent ballots. They're fine with the dead people voting. They're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're fine as long as their guy wins. That's all that matters.
and like I was telling somebody today that was, rubbing a little salt in my wound, because it doesn't look good at this point. But they were saying, oh yeah, how are you going to live under Joe Biden? I said, you know what? I'll adapt. I'll overcome. Like I am not a liberal. I'm not going to scream at the sky. I'm just going to figure it out.
Well,
and if that.
Well, here in Bill Mason Show, we're going to fight tooth and nail if there's a Biden
Absolutely.
administration.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I was trying to circle around to was that I said to this guy, I said, look, if the circumstances were flipped and Trump automatically overnight got hundreds of thousands of votes and it was like surprise, and then it was like, yeah, Trump won, just accept it, how would you feel? Would you want an investigation? Would you want the integrity of the election to be the most important part of this, or would you just care that your guy won? Because I said right now you're gloating because you think your guy won, but what happens when the next guy is the guy that you don't want and he pulls this crap, and now all of a sudden you have to eat the crow? So it's something that I think all Americans should be like, okay, if our guy wins, we want it to be fair. And that's why I don't understand the Democrats being resistant to recounts, doing these faux recounts where they're still not letting people observe and just literally recounting ballots that no one's certifying, like all of this stuff. If they really wanted to be a clear, rub Donald Trump's nose in it, they would have been upfront and open and said, let's check these ballots, but they're not.
Well, maybe if he doesn't win, maybe we should start a special prosecutor for Biden for China collusion. What do you think?
Absolutely, but we would have to win the House back, because this is the other thing that I think that they did. This Dominion software was tested, and like I said, I talked about the Arizona seat, Kristen Sinema, that was another miraculous overnight victory. Okay, when she beat the incumbent, and I started to see the writing on the wall then that maybe those midterms were a test run for this crap, and they stole enough seats to do this. So we would have to physically take the House back and get Pelosi out of there, which, man, that would do a lot if that were the case. But that's something that the House controls, the whole impeachment process and the special prosecutors and all that other crap. And I'm almost worried.
They don't control special prosecutor. They can. The Justice Department can appoint a special prosecutor without the House.
Oh yeah. I was talking impeachment. I'm sorry, because I'm immediately moving towards impeachment because in my mind, Joe Biden's already got ties. He's got foreign money being funneled through his son. He's already got backdoor deals, and he's already involved in stuff in the Ukraine. Right. He's literally a defendant on paperwork in the Ukraine. So my mind's already going towards impeachment.
Right. Well, I mean, naturally, after the special prosecutor is done, it would go to the House, and it wouldn't go anywhere with Nancy Pelosi there.
That's what that was where my mind was like circling around. Like he shouldn't even be elected. And if he does get elected, he should be impeached, because every single thing they accuse Donald Trump of, Joe Biden is actually guilty of times 10. Oh yeah. I mean, the abuse of power while in office was everywhere. It was 8 years of thievery.
Right. It was. So, I mean, we have another left person, a video we're about to show. You know Keith Olbermann?
Oh, yeah, I sure do. He's a loony.
Yeah, we had him on our show several times, actually. So let's play his latest rant, okay?
Nice. Okay.
This is Olbermann versus Trump, and I'm not Trump. Prosecute them all. 3 weeks after the election, the candidate who got the most votes against him in U.S. history continues to hold this nation hostage. This will end with him defeated and not democracy defeated, but the president-elect is also hinting, as Obama did in 2008, that he does not want to overshadow his own presidency with prosecutions of the previous one. In 2008, this was called criminalizing policy differences. God damn it! When the policy differences are between maintaining American democracy and substituting racist one-party rule, you're goddamn right. We want to criminalize policy differences. We not only want that, when it comes to an outgoing administration which is criminally guilty of trying to privatize the government, which is criminally negligent in the deaths of 250,000 Americans so far, and which is criminally liable for the current attempted coup, we also want as many members as possible of this corrupt, immoral, anti-democratic outgoing administration indicted, arrested, tried, and imprisoned. We want enough of them in there that they can hold reunions and birthday parties. We want the prisons so filled with Trumps and Trump flunkies and Trump apologists and Trump enablers that we have to convert Trump buildings into new goddamned Trump prisons. Illegal acts must have consequences, otherwise simply they cease to be illegal. If you cannot prosecute a former president when he broke the law, why would any future president not break the law? In the eternal struggle between right and wrong, there is no noble intent, no dedication to public service, no personal moral force, which is as powerful as the true, cold, cynical meaning of right and wrong in politics. And to the members of this derelict, deranged administration and of future Republican administrations, this simple truth must be inescapable, must be written in front of them in letters 100 feet high. You broke the law. We prosecute, and next time you try it, you will go to prison.
What do you think? Prescription drugs for him?
What a lunatic. I think the chances of even ESPN taking him back at this point to even like be a commentator are slim to none. He's become such a weirdo fascist, talking about prosecuting opposing viewpoints and stuff. I mean, the guy is so deranged with this Trump derangement syndrome that I don't think let's just say that Trump doesn't pull this out. What do guys like him have to rant about? What do they talk about?
There was nothing to talk about. It'll be
career over.
They'll probably talk about Trump saying he calls this.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope
4 years down the road he calls this.
I hope that the rumors are true. That if Trump does not pull this off, that he does start a television network and bombard these people 24/7. I really hope those rumors are true, because that would make my year.
Right. The problem is that, with the big conglomerate media, they can just not have them on cable. Just like on Newsmax and OAN, they can take them off anytime they want.
Yeah. As we saw today, I think OAN just lost their YouTube channel.
Exactly. So I mean, they were getting. I'm sure they're getting hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars just on YouTube.
Yeah.
So anyway, they lost that revenue.
That sucks.
Yes.
It's going down that road that Trump tried to go down, where taking away these people's protections, so to speak, where they straddle this line between publishers and content, promoters or producers or whatever, and they literally are picking and choosing the winners and the losers and who gets to speak and who doesn't. It's like Lord of the Flies, and they're holding the conch shell all the time. I mean, this is something that I think none of us really saw coming. I mean, well, actually, I could say that I did, but I'm always the doomsday guy who's like, this is going to end badly. So, I mean, honestly, the whole thing with media, we're watching people like Dan Bongino go through it with trying to upstart, something like Parler and Rumble and, get these things off the ground, and you're battling big tech with bottomless pockets, man. And when you're struggling, you don't realize that these guys are all aligned together, that it's easier for them to align against you than to let you rise up and become a problem. They can nip you in the bud.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, because it's a small guy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so after that rant, we have Corn. Corn got pardoned today.
Yeah, the fluffy white turkey.
Exactly. Let's take a look and see what he did.
All right.
It's corn, yes, it's corn. Corn, I hereby grant you a full pardon. Thank you, Corn. What a break. Okay, so you're in a Iowa farm. I knew I liked you for beautiful. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
There he is. Corn's happy.
You know what? I just want to say this because, I've hunted turkeys, and turkeys are pretty ugly. Corn had some makeup on and some fake tail feathers. I mean, that's what I was picking up from that. I mean, that was a TV appearance, if anything.
Corn looked pretty good, actually.
He looked good. Yeah, I mean, they took all the blue and red out of his little, his gola that hangs down, and they kind of evened out all of his flesh tone. And turkeys don't look like that in real life, man. They're pretty ugly.
Well, you got to get ready for TV. I'm sure he had a little dressing room in the back.
Yeah, he had high def makeup on or something, man.
Exactly. So something else happened at the pardon too. These reporters are just so unclassy.
What are they going to do if Trump doesn't get reelected? Like, how are they this vitriol, this anger? Where's it going to go? I just don't know.
Yeah, are they going to yell at Biden? No, they're not. Take a look at.
Not at all.
No, take a look at this video.
All right.
Pardons before leaving office. Will you be issuing a pardon for yourself?
Mr. President, will you invite President-elect Biden?
Mr. President,
Yeah, so pardon for himself.
He stayed classy, and so did Melania.
They did.
That's all I could say.
Oh, jeez, unbelievable.
You know what it is? It's kind of like what I've noticed, especially as this election cycle started. These reporters who are nobodies, they're trying to make a name for themselves. So even if they don't get their questions answered, they'll go on Twitter and they'll be like, "That was me. I was the one that said that." You know what I mean? Like they'll try to get some street cred or something like that to like bolster themselves. But I really worry. Like we're watching with Fox, the golden goose that Trump is. I mean, if he were to not be in politics, these people would have to shift their game 180 degrees and figure out what they're going to do, because there's so many people that literally ride his coattails to just tear him to pieces. I mean, that's part of their job, but that's their job, and it's like, what are these people going to do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Trump doesn't go out in public, I mean, they won't have any answers for that. So they're going to be in trouble.
They're going to be in serious trouble. And, like I said, where it's the golden goose. So when Fox, starts to go against Trump, his supporters, the 72 million of them, they go with him. And Fox is losing 3 to 4 million viewers, like they're hemorrhaging. So I don't know how they're going to save themselves now, because there are still a few really great people on Fox, but the rest of the, rhinos and pretend conservatives, they're done. I don't know. They're going to end up, applying for jobs at CNN.
Yeah. All right. So we have next up, we have Pastor JD. So
yes.
So we have a few days ago, the cabinet met with Trump, and they were going to maybe attack Iran before he leaves office. That was shot down, but other things could happen. Let's take a look at Pastor JD.
Okay.
The reason I wanted to start this way is because of the swiftness, or if you prefer, warp speed, with which everything is happening. I would suggest that the proverbial handwriting of the end is on the wall. I'd like to draw your attention to 3 reports, all of which were published by the Jerusalem Post, beginning with this first one on Wednesday about Israel striking Iranian and Syrian targets in Syria in a response to explosive devices found on the border. The strikes hit 8 targets from the Golan Heights to Damascus, including an Iranian military complex near Damascus International Airport. Israel has repeatedly warned of Iran's aspirations of regional hegemony and has admitted to carrying out hundreds of airstrikes as part of its, and this is in quotation, listen, war between the wars, hang on to that, campaign to prevent the transfer of advanced weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon and the entrenchment of its forces in Syria, where they could easily act against Israel. Speaking of war between the wars, or as Jesus said in the prophecy recorded in Matthew 24, wars and rumors of wars, according to the Jerusalem Post, it's rumored that President Trump last week asked for options on attacking Iran's main nuclear site, but ultimately decided against taking the dramatic step. This brings me to the third report.
There we go. So he pretty much laid it all out. So really, Israel is already de facto already at war with Syria and Israel, just not declared.
Yes.
So it looks like Trump's not going to bomb Iran, but might let Israel do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are shaken up over the current situation with Trump being such a pro-Israel, man in their corner, and they're looking at Biden, who is a pro-Iranian sycophant. Like, he coming in is scaring the daylights probably out of these people, where if Iran goes nuclear, there is no recourse. Like, they literally have to probably do something very soon to keep them at bay.
Right. Yeah, they want to try to do it before Biden takes office. So
yeah,
let's take a look at this next video about this.
Okay.
With just weeks until his presidential term comes to an end, Donald Trump has reportedly been exploring options to launch an attack on Iran. 7 News US correspondent Tim Lester joins us now from Washington, D.C. Tim, this is an extraordinary claim.
It is, Eddie, so much so because everybody here has been focused on if and when President Trump might begin an orderly transition to Joe Biden, this underscoring some of the other decisions he confronts. The New York Times reports that last Thursday he held a meeting in the Oval Office here with his most senior military and security advisors. This after the International Atomic Energy Agency found that Iran has stockpiled now 2,500 kilograms of low enriched uranium, way above the limits under President Obama's deal on Iran and nuclear limits. But, of course, President Trump abandoned that deal 2 years ago. President Trump apparently asked his advisors what options he had, including whether there might be a strike on an Iran nuclear plant. He was told that risked a far wider Middle East conflict, and apparently his chiefs left satisfied that at least that option with Iran was off the table. 9 weeks still to go to the presidential handover on January 20th, and many big decisions to make in the meantime. Eddie?
Certainly are. Thank you, Tim.
All right, so there you have it. So they heard that several B-52s have been stationed to Middle East for just a few days ago. It was transferred over there to the Middle East. So looks like they might be getting ready for maybe Israel or Saudi Arabia to attack.
Yeah, and I like we were talking pre-show. I mean, the two of them have been taking these missile attacks for years now, and it's got to be getting old for both of them. And even though Israel is, not really the optimum ally for Saudi Arabia, in this case, the enemy of your enemy becomes your friend. That old adage or whatever. So, I mean, maybe they coalition together and do something. I mean, I guess we're yet to know. But, the pastor said, Matthew 24, do not fret, for these things must come to pass. And, it is not the end. So if they're going to do it, it's probably going to be soon. Because there is no confidence for Israel under Joe Biden.
No. So it's going to be between now and January 20th.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the historic meeting, the emergency meeting between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Take a look at this video.
Okay.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refused to discuss details of a landmark meeting with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia that reportedly took place over the weekend. An Israeli cabinet minister said on Monday that such a meeting did take place, and it also marks the first publicly confirmed trip to the kingdom by an Israeli leader. 2 radio stations in Israel initially reported Netanyahu had secretly flown to Saudi Arabia for talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. When asked about the meeting itself on Monday, Netanyahu wasn't willing to give away specifics.
Are you serious? Friends, throughout my years I've never commented on such things, and I don't intend to start doing so now. I can only tell you that really, throughout my years as Prime Minister, I didn't spare any effort to strengthen the State of Israel and to expand the circle of peace. And thank God we managed to do it with our neighbours, with the Emirates, with Bahrain, with Sudan, and I hope this circle will always expand.
Saudi Arabia's foreign minister added some further mystery by denying reports that a meeting even took place. Pompeo has been leaning on Saudi Arabia to follow the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain and establish formal relations with Israel. The reconciliation between Israel and the Gulf states is largely built on a shared concern about Iran and potentially whether US President-elect Joe Biden will wind back Washington's regional policies.
There we have. So,
well, Pompeo's on the scene. So, I have a fair amount of confidence in Pompeo. If you really look at his tenure, he's really helped Trump avoid another war, which, honestly, Trump should have got the Nobel Peace Prize. He's been nominated for actually not getting us into another war or conflict and actually de-escalating situations. So big ups to Pompeo for whatever aspect that he brought to the peace treaty. I don't know if he was a big player or a medium or a small player, but he's obviously something that has changed the way the Middle East looks at the United States, Saudi Arabia, Israel. Other people are Bahrain, I think, is now, on board. And there are certain people that are looking at Iran the way we do now, where they're like, look, those guys are a powder keg. You guys should not be friends with them because they will F you guys all and they will have no problem doing it. So, I mean, where does America go from this point on? It's in Trump's hands. I'm totally confident. In Biden's hands, I am not.
No, it's going to be a total disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be like having your best chef in the world run your restaurant for years and then swap the chef out and everybody leaves. I mean, we're literally looking at no one having confidence in Biden's ability as far as like diplomacy, because Biden was just out to cash in. And now you're going to have people like, China, Russia's going to look at us as weak, honestly, under Biden. I mean, Iran is obviously going to look at us as weak under Biden. So the likeliness of us getting attacked worries me a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We're going to seem weak all throughout the whole world. So
that's what I mean. He is not the guy.
No. So we'll see what happens between now. Again, you heard it first here on the Bill Mason Show.
Yeah, keep an eye out.
If the attack's going to happen, it's going to happen between now and January 20th. It's most likely going to happen sometime in December because they don't want to have leftovers with Biden there. So let's see what happens. So let's go take a look at G20 now. The G20 happened last week. They said that Trump didn't make a speech.
Yeah, they said he didn't even go.
Yeah,
he obviously made. Yeah.
So let's take a look at this speech here.
Okay.
This is probably why they say he didn't take it, because this is a great speech about climate change.
Yeah.
States. The Paris Accord was not designed to save the environment. It was designed to kill the American economy. I refuse to surrender millions of American jobs and send trillions of American dollars to the world's worst polluters and environmental offenders. And that's what would have happened. Since withdrawing from the Paris Accord, the United States has reduced carbon emissions more than any nation anywhere in the world. Our air is 7% cleaner than when I took office. At the same time, we've made America energy independent. Bolstered by our historic tax and regulatory cuts, the The United States is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas in the world. American freedom.
There we go. So there's Trump at the G20 actually making a speech when the press said he did not.
Well, I think because he did not say what the press wanted him to say. As usual. He's not going to be your yes man. You know, the whole Paris Accord, the pot that he stirred was that, look at the numbers. Like, there is no way the United States is going to be on the hook for funding this entire accord while India and China just pollute away and no one gives a rat's ass about them. But all of a sudden the United States has to, make their cars get 35 miles a gallon by 2024. I mean, it was all unrealistic. I mean, he looks at it from a different perspective. From a businessman perspective. And I think that's what ruffles the feathers of the media, because he's not going to tell you a BS line. He's going to tell you why he's not supporting it.
Right, exactly. It's a big sucking sound over to China. So,
yep.
So anyway, that's a G20. So again, let's go back to election. There's still several lawsuits. We have been losing these lawsuits, but they have been since upping the ante, going to appealing, and one's in Supreme Court supposedly, and there's several other ones that are going that direction.
So a couple theories are out there where the whole Sidney Powell thing. This has now become the elephant in the room for a lot of people. I mean, everybody watched Tucker basically call out Sidney Powell saying, hey, you didn't come on my show. You didn't give the evidence, so therefore you have none. Well, Sidney Powell fired back on Newsmax and said, basically in a nutshell, I'm paraphrasing here, but why would I give it to Fox when right now Fox is making a hard left turn? Why would I give you everything I had so you can give it to the Democrats so they can put up a defense? Which part of me goes, yeah, rah, rah. I like that aspect. I think the other thing that's happening is we're running we have to run like the what they call the 2-minute offense in football. Like, there is no time to sit on the sidelines and make plays and figure out, what's the best offense here, because you don't have time. We have till December 8th basically to get all this stuff settled down, where if the state is going to certify, it really puts pressure. And I think the Trump campaign did a great job of this by proving that there is so much nefariousness, we'll call it, in the voter counts. If these Secretary of States certify these votes, it's basically like swearing under oath. So it's kind of like perjury, from what I'm told, that if they swear these votes are certifiable and then they're found to not be, then they can be basically charged with something. So I think the Trump campaign was trying to put it out there that, hey, we have so much evidence, you might want to wait on certifying those votes. Now, we know who the dyed-in-the-wool crookeds are, and definitely is Pennsylvania. I mean, we've seen how that Secretary of State, I mean, anybody, looks at her Twitter knows she hates Donald Trump to the core. So the problem with the court cases, I think, is that they can play this game because the long game for Trump is really going to have to go right down to the wire, where it basically goes to the House and everybody gets one vote. But for him, he has to have states that are uncertifiable. He has to have several states that can't certify votes, and then it's going to go to the House. And I don't know if that's his end game, but if it is, I mean, man, is that really running it down to the last second?
Well, it is. I mean, we already have Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan certify. Right. Of course, that could be overturned by a Supreme Court ruling.
Yes.
But so we'll see what happens.
But isn't that a coincidence that all of those states have massive corruption claims and massive fraud claims and all of that stuff, that they were all the states to certify? Meanwhile, California is taking their sweet time, and all these other states that knew that they could certify votes like the day after, they still have not. So it's like weird that all these battleground states now, with all the charges of corruption, are rushing to certify.
Right.
So I want to see how this plays out. I think of Trump as like a long gamer, like a chess player, and I'm hoping that he's got something up his sleeve. Honestly, I don't want it to be over yet, because I don't want to be the guy who my grandkids look up to me and go, "Do you remember when they cheated and stole an election?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I was there."
Right.
I watched it.
You're in it. You watched it.
I was in it.
Yes.
Yeah. I went to DC, but I mean, otherwise, I just watched it happen. You know,
there's really there's nothing you really can do except for us putting it out there and see what happens. So,
but like on the Sidney Powell thing, I know you're going to intro like some of these videos.
Sure.
The hacking that she's bringing up, it's so difficult to prove. So you have to get it to the point where somebody's willing to sit down for hours and watch these mathematicians and these hackers and all these people show you how it is manipulated. It's not something that's like a one-click option where it's like, yep, here's the evidence, there it is, send, it's there. This would take weeks to prove in court, and that's why I think the problem is. But some of these videos we're going to show you guys are just about how they were talking about in 2017, 18, even 19, that these machines are not safe, that anyone can hack into these things. And I mean, in my state of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, 5 nights before the election, a warehouse got broken into. They stole the security keys and the laptop that was associated with the voting machines. And that was like a blip on the media's radar. No one talked about that.
Well, there's a video out there with somebody walking into the where all the machines were housed before the election, just walking around like nobody else is around. Like, I mean, the craziest thing is the chain of custody of when you close down like they did, like the voting machines. The whole point of the chain of custody is those machines are delivered in the morning. They're fired up. They're turned on. They're checked to make sure that they're functioning. And then they're not supposed to be shut off or left anyone's visual chain of custody until the votes are done. That didn't happen this election. Several states shut down at 11:30, 12 o'clock. Everybody go home, come back in the morning. That's unheard of. We got a guy that shows you that in 7 minutes, he can pop a chip out and turn that machine over. Well, let's take a look and see what happened. Take a look.
Yep.
Defcon Voting Village is the only third-party independent assessment team of voting machines, as far as we know, in the entire world. So people come here to really kick the wheels, figure out exactly how these machines work, what the vulnerabilities are, so we can make more secure elections.
Yeah, there's a million different ways to interact with this thing.
Just kind of exploring like what's going on with printing.
This is the AccuVote TSX. It's used in 18 different states, 8 of which are swing states. It's going to start rebooting, and you're going to see that it's having trouble rebooting because there's no card reader. And now you have full admin access on this machine. So you can disrupt the election, you can disrupt people's confidence in the election. When you think about admin access, you can think about like keys to the castle. When you have admin access, you own the machine. You can get it to do what you want it to do. So you can imagine that being very nefarious.
US elections are so complex that we humans cannot do a manual count. We are dishonest and we are error prone. So we have to use machines while we know that the machines are hackable. So now the question is, we use the machine and now we verify the results by doing a risk limiting audit. And this is where you know that the machine didn't cheat. But you cannot trust machine as a paper ballot.
What was so interesting was I assumed coming into it that the big manufacturers, companies like ES&S and Dominion, had provided these machines to the hackers to, field test them. But no, it turns out there's an extremely hostile relationship there, and that ES&S and Dominion and other companies have basically said we don't want to participate, and really have been quite aggressive in saying we don't want to be part of this. So the organizers were reduced to finding these machines on eBay, which right there is pretty terrifying because it turns out that anybody can buy some of the most common machines in use on eBay. What was really alarming was when you see these hackers, and these are people who've never seen these machines before, have had no practice on them for the most part, come in and engage them, they immediately get into the guts of them. Beyond that, we were seeing Dominion's ImageCast system. It's a line of tabulators that paper ballots are fed into. That had its guts all over the room. It was not clear to us whether this was the most recent version of the ImageCast hardware, but it's important to note that Georgia just spent over is about to spend over $100 million on a contract with Dominion to provide ImageCast hardware to the state in time for the for the next primaries and for the 2020 election. And yet here these kids were who had opened it up. They said, look, you can pop the front off of it and here's a port you can get into right here. That's easy. You know, all kinds of stuff that you could certainly do within 6 minutes behind a curtain, much less if you had extra time because any of these were connected to the web, as we discovered a couple of days before, so many of them are. So at the end of the event, Voting Village issues a report, and so we'll be expecting one from them. And they're very transparent about it. I mean, the spirit of this event was transparency, trying to get these vulnerabilities out into the world so that I guess the idea is that the companies will be forced to correct them in some ways. On the front of each machine was a little post-it that showed off what had been found out by the various hackers. So at one point, you know, the admin password was just sitting there on there because it turns out that the same admin password applies to multiple machines across the room, and those machines were created in the 2000s, which means that they were in fact created so you can't change that admin password. They're just locked for all time in that way. There does not seem to be any political momentum on some of the bills that are under consideration right now around trying to keep these machines off the internet or trying to establish some sort of certifiable ballot, paper ballot system or any of the other things that have been proposed. And so the combination of seeing the incredible vulnerabilities that we saw on display in real time at this event and the lack of institutional action around the security of the vote, all of that made for an extremely alarming.
Wow.
Shocking, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I mean, the funny thing about this is that's not post-election. That's way before. Some of those, I found them today. Some of them are from 2019. Some of them are from 2017. This is after the 2016 election when everybody accused Russia of hacking, and all of these things. They took all these kids, I call them kids because they're younger than me, but they go in and they're like, oh my God, this thing's a disaster. I could hack it from here. I could get it from there. I could put a thumb drive in here. Like, they are just laughing at the security level of something that is supposed to be so sacrosanct, like our vote to declare the presidency. And they're hacking into these things with little or no resistance. So that was brought to light. And then you have companies like Dominion, who obviously in that interview or whatever, it said, yeah, they're not going to provide a machine. They had to find it on eBay. Like, they had to buy one so they could hack into it, because Dominion's not going to say, yeah, look, our thing. They have no confidence in their machine. They know that thing's not only a printer, it hooks up to Ethernet, it hooks up to Wi-Fi. They know all of this stuff. They put it in there, you know.
Those people have been hiding ever since the election.
Absolutely. And they're deleting their stuff at record pace. Even I know a lot of our listeners are probably pretty savvy, but LinkedIn is somewhere where, you know, you want to be proud of your work. Like, you want like a work history. You make a LinkedIn, you say, hey, I work for this software company. I'm worth 300 grand a year because I'm the man. Now these guys are deleting their LinkedIn because it links them to either Smartmatic or Dominion, because all of this heat is coming back. And it's like at record numbers that all these guys are disappearing from the web.
Well, we'll see where that Sidney Powell lawsuit happens, where it goes. And
I got high hopes for Sidney Powell, because from the fight that's in her that she had to put up for General Flynn. If anybody doesn't know who Sidney Powell is, Sidney Powell was from day one the one who knew that the General Flynn thing, it was railroading him for no reason, and it was unfactual, and they were using the branches of government that should not be used to persecute a person who's not guilty. So she is no stranger to fighting the big monolith power. And I think that, you know, the Trump campaign saying that she's working pro bono and she's working on her own, I think maybe that's for a purpose, that maybe that empowers her because now she's outside of the Trump campaign. Maybe there are things that she could do that maybe she could not do under the Trump campaign umbrella. That's just my opinion. I don't know otherwise why they would say that she's no longer with the Trump campaign or any of that. But I know that the big things that she's talking is not something that you can prove on a 5-minute window on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, if you looked at what was that movie that Plot Against the United States? What was it? Plot Against the President. It's on Prime.
Plot Against the President. Yeah,
I saw
that's
that
a
other
great
night. Very good movie. If you get a chance to watch that,
Absolutely.
that. So I mean, so that's the show tonight. Do you have any last words, Bill?
I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and whether you're going to wear a mask while you eat your turkey, or whether you're going to have 15 to 20 people at your house, I just want you to be safe and okay, and tune back in on Tuesday because we're probably not going to do a Thanksgiving show.
Right. You won't be eating corn. The one
he's been pardoned.
He has been pardoned, but you'll be eating some other relative of his. So
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for the subscribers, and have a good evening.
Like and share.